And welcome back to Link FM 96.7 FM, broadcasting across Sheffield and South Yorkshire on Bradford Asian Radio across Bradford and District, and on Luton across Bedfordshire as well. So we welcome everybody, all our listeners. And in the studio with me is Councillor Shafak Mohammed, my regular political contributor, Councillor Jim Stanky, Cabinet Member, and also Councillor Zahira Nas, who's just come back from Calais, so we were grateful for her for coming into the studio and telling us about her trip over there as well. And we want people to phone in, and Shafak's just going to go through those phone numbers.
Welcome to all our listeners, both in Bedford, Luton, Sheffield, Bradford and Keighley. The studio hotline always is 014 261 8181. That will get you onto the hotline here with Hafiz and straight through to Mahroof, and those who want to WhatsApp and text, it's 07939 849 339. Time's flown, Mahroof. We've just had an hour of the show. We're into the second half now.
We're into the second half, the new time,
the new time, 6 o'clock. Yeah, normally I should be having my tea now and getting ready and thinking what we're going to talk about on the radio. But yeah, we've been having some interesting discussions. One was, both have been kind of international issues, aren't they? Around Shamima Begum, I think it was, who wants to return back to United Kingdom, having left to join up with IS, well, at least to get married to an IS fighter. And then obviously we've been talking to Councillor Zahira Naz about her trip to Calais, and particularly in terms of those young people and others that are seeking asylum on the other side. But I think we're moving on to more domestic issues now, Mahroof, particularly when it comes to the B word.
Well, this is an interesting discussion, and there's been talks about this previously around setting up of a new centrist party, because people believe that both the Conservatives, who are actually to the right, and Labour, who's over to the left, the middle ground has been left. No one is actually taking or paying any attention to the middle ground. This is the area where Tony Blair is a big fan of. This is why Labour won, I think, was it three historical terms, because it was actually Tony Blair thinks in order to win, you have to take the centre ground. And what's happening now with Brexit, there's a number of Conservative MPs and there's a number of Labour MPs who are disenfranchised with their leadership, and they believe that basically it's all going to pot and we need to do something else. There's also other concerns within the Labour Party about the way they handle complaints around discrimination. But people like Chris Leslie here, Chuck Omer, and he's mentioning Angela Smith as well, and Gavin Shucker have signalling their intention to ratchet up the pressure on Corbyn in the hope he will whip his MPs to back an amendment calling for a second referendum. But Jeremy doesn't seem to want to budge on that. And from within the Conservatives, you've got people like Sarah Wollaston, who's a doctor who I actually understood
is quite decent,
who's the chairman, I think, of the Health Select Committee. And actually won in some kind of primary or something.
So she actually let the people of her constituency select her first and then vote for us, which is interesting.
And Anna Sudbury and also Heidi Allen, these are like key Conservatives. And they want to set up a party. I mean, the guy who owned Love, I think it's Simon Franks, the guy who run Love Films, he also put some money into it a few years ago. We had quite a few full-time staff, trying to get the centrist movement going as well. So this is going down the same lines again. And let me ask you, Shafak, we've got to get Faheem. We've got the Faheem on the line as well, hopefully.
Right.
Let's just get Faheem on the line, and then I think we'll come back again, because he's ringing us from Faheem. Faheem, are you on the line?
Yes, I am. How are you doing?
Yeah, okay. So we've got Faheem Aziz with us from Dubai. Faheem, welcome once again to this new time. I think it's better for you because
you're enjoying this time, won't you, Faheem? You actually you'll not be going to bed now.
I'm awake. I'm awake.
You sound it as well.
I might be a bit more coherent now.
All right, so Faheem, we've had a little chat, but let's just start with the same thing, and we'll bring the panel in shortly as well. Is this new, there's a potential here now, and apparently these are serious discussions emerging in Westminster that a new political party may start up with the wannabes from all the other parties who are not getting what they want. They want to set up their own party. You know, colloquially, jokingly here in our cities here is whenever you fall out with the local imam, you go and set up your own mosque. It seems to me these people are setting up their own. They're setting up their own little establishment now. Do you think there's any legs in this? Do you think it's going to go anywhere, or they're basically negotiating here?
Sorry, is that to me?
Yes, you.
Oh, yeah. So I think this is pretty much history repeating itself. If you go back to the early 80s, I think it was after the 1981 Labour Party conference where they sort of had a motion about leaving Europe. And the backdrop of Thatcher's Britain at that time was Margaret Thatcher had a very, very low rating. And you had 26 Labour MPs a few years later, led by the Gang of Four, which was Roy Jenkins, Shirley Williams, David Owen, and the other guy that nobody ever remembers.
Rogers.
Rogers, yeah, that's the guy. 26 Labour MPs went, and I think one Conservative MP went. And the result was that, yes, they had some success, but it meant that the Conservatives were in power up until 1997. So I think something similar will happen. The centre ground has shifted. I mean, Jeremy Corbyn has actually shifted the centre ground. There were certain discussions and policies that you thought never would sort of rear their head, nationalisation of the railways and these sort of things. So maybe these guys are a little bit behind the times. But I don't think they're going to be successful. They have the right to do to form these parties, but I don't think they're going to have any success. I mean, even the Labour Party that had a natural sort of a natural electorate, which is the working class, took them almost 45 years before they came into real power, and they were there in a coalition in 1929. But I think this isn't going to be successful, and all it does, it will let in the Tories through the back gate.
Well, Momentum, who's the kind of grassroots movement of the Labour Party, have been taunting Chuka Umunna recently with a video, I think spoofing him, saying, playing the song "Please Don't Go." It urged him to stay in the party, but concluded, "If you go, we're keeping the house." So I think here everyone's playing kind of brinkmanship, but actually the future of the country is at stake here, and how we actually move forward. And these people seem to be living in, when they talk about the Westminster bubble, we've all seen it, we've all been there. It really is a bubble, and they have no idea what's happening. So let me just bring Shafak in here. Shafak, one of the key movers in this political party are going to be the Lib Dems, okay? And Vince Cable is potentially may stand down next time. He wants a new person to come in. And it was the SDP then went into the Lib Dems, which is probably why you know who the fourth person was, who nobody else seems to know.
No.
So are the Lib Dems behind this? Because let's be honest, the Lib Dems, from what they were in coalition to what they are now, with 5 or so MPs or 8 MPs,
11
MPs,
come on, we're in double figures.
No longer can they have a group meeting in the back of a black cab. They've got to get 2 black cabs now.
Yeah. All of van.
So do you feel that the Lib Dems are looking to strengthen their position with this new
look,
party?
there's been this kind of issue ever since Jeremy Corbyn first got elected. Remember, he was nominated by people who didn't actually vote for him, thinking, we'll just be nice to him and get him on the ballot paper. Since then, there's people that are feeling...
I think people are going to stop being nice to people now after that.
Yeah, people are now feeling that their kind of position in the party, their say is diminished, their kind of policy areas have been pushed aside, and there's a different agenda being held. And some of these people have had votes and no confidence against them. So Chris Leslie, I think, has had one in Nottingham. Angela Smith here just up the road in Peddiston's had one. Lucinda Berger was going to have one until issues cropped up around anti-Semitism, and that was now withdrawn. Tom Watson was trying to get so it's not a happy camp, particularly because Brexit is such a divisive issue. Some people are happy with Brexit, so the likes of John Mann and that are pretty happy to see Brexit. But people like Chuka Umunna, Angela Smith and others are wanting the second vote, and they don't seem to be getting it. And what they feel is that they're being pushed out, and this new party, will it get off the ground? I don't know. I think the 29th of March will tell us exactly what's going to happen. If we get extension to Article 50, if we do get this second vote, because what the Labour policy is, if I understand it right, and Zahra and Jim will tell me otherwise if I don't, is that they are campaigning still for a general election, and if they don't get that, then all options remain, including a public vote. But there's various tests and all that. I think, you guys come in and tell me I'm wrong if I am, because I'm not trying to mislead people. I'm just
go on then, Jim.
Go on. So is that your understanding?
Very good. I'm pleased that you're so up on them.
I've had a lot of debate and exchange of stuff with Paul Blomfield on this for obvious reasons. It was a Labour MP in Sheffield Central, who's one of the Brexit shadow ministers. But look, this will be because the Labour Party seems to be moving to the left more when it used to be left to centre. The Conservatives have moved more to the right, this European Research Group. So those people that are in the centre or just right of centre for the Conservatives, left of centre for the Labour Party, feeling that actually the direction of the party is not where they want to go, and if there is imminent chances of them being deselected, they probably will walk before they're pushed.
Jim?
And that's what we had in the past from the Conservatives. The number of Conservatives came and joined us, both for MEP Edmund Macmillan-Scott, and I try to remember the Conservative MP in the 1990s that joined us. I'll get a name in a bit. I'm trying to remember it. Go on, Jim.
What concerns me about the discussions is that it feels to me, in terms of a new party, is possibly a substitute for more rational discussions between kind of progressive alliances in terms of current Tory government, and it seems to be absolutely crucial that we need to kind of move to have a movement that is capable of actually defeating that government, and I think what form that takes, and it seems to me that may actually end up in some kind of arrangement where we don't necessarily get a majority Labour government, but potentially some arrangement with the Lib Dems. I'm not adverse to that. I'm not opposed to coalitions. I'd obviously prefer kind of a Labour government. So I think putting my cards on the table there, I think it just worries me that we get distracted by a third party that potentially just leaves it open for the Tories to win a general election again, and that's why we'd be against the.
Zaid, I mean, you've come into politics. Is it your first term or your second term?
My second term.
It's your second term. So I mean, Jeremy Corbyn clearly came in. I mean, it's all right for the Lib Dem to say Jeremy Corbyn's got issue, but actually he was elected with a bigger majority than he was the first time.
No.
So it seems to me there's no problem. Some people have got a problem, like
a small group.
So Zaida, do you support the way the Labour Party is going, or do you think there needs to be revisit some of the kind of values or policies?
Well, in September last year, I was at the Labour Party conference, and it was actually the membership who voted for a general election first, and if we don't get a general election, then all options are on the table, and that's what the Labour Party is saying. I mean, I agree with what Jim was saying regarding if there's a third party. The country is very, very divided, and I think people voted to leave. And I think even though, the Remainers say a lot of people have changed their minds, but people have voted to leave. So therefore, we should continue leaving, but with a deal, not with the situation at the moment. At the moment, it's chaos, and I think people are really, really fed up. And the problem is with this new party, again, the third party might end up helping keep the current government in the position that it's in, and that's quite worrying, actually.
So, Faheem, coming back to you, I mean, the standing of Britain currently in the world is took an absolute hammering, right? Let's be clear here. Donald Tusk was the person that Jim famously quoted, saying that there's a place reserved special place reserved in hell for these people because they had no idea or made no plans on how they were going to achieve it. Do you feel, from an outside point of view, that Britain, if a new party is set up, is just going to add more fuel onto the flames, or is it actually going to make any difference because they think there might be a party that they can do business with?
Yeah, I mean, Donald Tusk is the same guy that probably supported the foreign wars without any plans as well. So he's probably got the same seat in hell with the other guys as well. So, I mean, I think going back to the essence of this new party, I mean, it is going to be a failure. You're looking at the old guy that started the SDP, which was Roy Jenkins, Shirley Williams, David Owen. These guys were giants in their party, and they were Chaka Amuna, and these guys are nowhere near. And I think this will be a complete distraction, and internationally it'll make us look like even more of a basket case than it is. People have to gravitate around a certain point of view, and I think the one point of view is for sure is that these people who have this sort of third way are essentially undemocratic in their nature. They didn't agree with the democratic vote of the Labour Party when they elected Jeremy Corbyn, and they haven't agreed with the democratic vote of the British people the day after it happened. Forget about what happened now. They didn't agree with it then. Even the Liberal Democrats said we need to have another vote almost straight away. So it was nothing to do with the fact that there's chaos and all this sort of stuff. They just didn't fundamentally agree with the vote. And unless we sort of believe in the democratic process and believe in the democratic vote, whether we like it or not, I didn't like it, but that's the way it is. And that's the position that we need to take. And that's the position that these guys, all of them have, which is essentially undemocratic in the cause. They can't really take it when the vote doesn't go their way.
I found something quite funny the other day when I was watching, I think Channel 4 that were covering a lot of Brits who were in Spain, and they realised that because of Brexit they're going to lose all their rights and they might have to come back or face some kind of penalty. And now they're saying, well, if I'd known that at the time, I wouldn't have voted this way. So, I think all round it was absolute confusion. I think, I'm not sure where David Cameron features in Donald Tusk's list, but certainly there's a few issues there. But Faheem, just one other topic we were talking about before we move on earlier on was this issue of people who travelled abroad, and in case it was Shamim Begum, who was a 15-year-old who travelled abroad, married a Daesh fighter, is now heavily pregnant, being identified and found in a Syrian refugee camp, and she wants to come back home. Her parents want her back home, but actually ideologically she hasn't changed her mind. But what would she, she's probably had no training on the battlefield, she doesn't understand any of these issues. Do you think she should be allowed back again into the UK? And if so, what do you think should happen to her?
Well, this is one story. I'm normally quite an opinionated guy and I'm quite sure of my views, but this has really sort of torn me in terms of, what is the right position here. In one respect, if somebody makes a decision to leave the country and go abroad and be a traitor to their own country, they should not be allowed back. One thing... Even
if there's international law that says you can come back?
No, I haven't got to that point. So even it's essentially people in our own community that should be scared the most, which is we don't want to encourage people from our own community to say, well, you can go over there, have a good try, and then make a safe return back. So, we want to make sure that this is stopped straight away. But then, as you quite rightly sort of point out, you have international law. You can't make somebody stateless. She was underage when she went, so effectively, she was a child bride and effectively a victim. Has she come into some sort of Stockholm syndrome while she's there, where she starts sympathizing with her captors? But there's all of these sort of issues, and then there's three other sort of key issues here. If she was a young man, we should be treated differently.
No, but there's one argument. Faheem, let me ask you this. Faheem, before you move on, there's one argument that was put quite interestingly, which I listened to, was when the IRA were bombing British citizens, they killed British politicians. They bombed the Prime Minister and the government at the time. Those people are still allowed in. Those people are still allowed to go back, along with their lives. Even those people were released from prison as part of the Good Friday Agreement. What's wrong with one 19-year-old coming back when you've got thousands over there who are still basically still have a problem with the British government?
Exactly.
And the argument there was because they were white and Christian, whereas here you're talking about a brown and a Muslim. There's hypocrisy going on. They're both terrorists, as far as I'm concerned.
Exactly, and I think if she was named Kelly and her mother was Brenda and dad was Dave, and they were saying we need our daughter back, we may see her and perceive her in a completely different light. So this particular situation has so many different layers and elements to it that in one respect you don't want to encourage it. The other respect, you have her and you have her child as well. Out of no fault of their own, that a British citizen is actually sort of living abroad. So on many different levels, and I think the argument that you just laid down is a very persuasive point of view. But I think there's one thing that needs to happen, is that she needs to come back. She needs to face some form of trial or law, face the loss of the law. But I think, and if the laws are inadequate to address her situation, then we need to make some laws that adequately do, reflect these sort of situations. Because we can't. There's nothing. We're not saying don't let her back in. I think that's definitely agreed, because that's what the international position says we have to have. But we can't just let her integrate back into society. There has to be some sort of retribution.
Jim wants to come in for him.
That she took.
No, I think that's a really thoughtful contribution. That what I wanted to say on it, that, and kind of building on what I was saying earlier, is that I think there are just some things that's limits to legislation, and I think that in a case like this, where like you, I've been torn either way about it. In a way, there's a bit of me that really wants to make an example to say to everyone else, don't do this, and yet on the other hand, there's a vulnerable kind of young woman who in other circumstances would be considered very differently. And I think it is just that at the end of the day we need to make kind of common sense
But Jim, do you believe, I mean, this argument that people are putting forward, that there's clearly a race element here? People always say, well, they're playing the race card here.
Absolutely is a race card. That's why I think we just need to kind of, in a sense, calm it and just recognise at the end of the day this is, and whether or not she's kind of apologetic or shown any kind of remorse, the fact is that by definition, this is a 19-year-old, pregnant 19-year-old who is going to be vulnerable, and I think, and the child is it, and I think she's going to have a further trauma in terms of whether or not she actually keeps any child.
I think Faheem, I mean, you know, bigger picture moving forward then in relation to the British perception, and we will come back originally to the first question actually before we go to a break, is, you know, after March the 29th, which is my birthday, in case anybody wants to get me a cake, after March the 29th...
I'm not sure there's much to celebrate other than your birthday that day, but go on.
We call it Maroof's birthday, forget about Brexit Day. Is, where do you think, I mean, look, Middle East, a lot of money, a lot of deals, a lot of trade. You've got, you know, obviously Britain's going to want to make some deals with some of these Arab countries, separate, basically, to the European Union. UAE is currently investing, I think, something like 50 billion in India. You know, it's a big market. The GCC countries are looking to invest abroad. They always see Britain as a stable financial country where they can do some of that investment. Do you think that will continue, or do you think the Arab nations are going to move over to the European Union and other countries like Pakistan now because they're, you know, looking to get a lot of money from them? How do you think it's going to play out?
Well, I think Britain is very well placed because, you know, these are English-speaking countries. They have an English heritage to them. You know, some of them were
occupied
colonies of England, occupied or however you want to describe it. But they
colonized.
They have an English heritage.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
They have an English heritage. The royal families are very much interlinked in terms of
went to Sandhurst,
the sort of the social circuit.
Oxford,
you know, Sandhurst, and then the Derby and horse racing, and you know, so there is a lot of sort of romanticism around Britain and the British way of life, and trying to emulate them. So I think Britain is very well placed to try and capitalise on that.
Excellent. Well, Faheem, we're coming to